Clockwork Orange is my favorite movie. I have found that every time I tell people this, they are always surprised. Many people have thought it was great, some thought it was good, but all agree that it is not in contention for the best film ever made. So on fifth rewatch a few nights back, I asked myself, why do I like A Clockwork Orange so much? I tried to answer this question in a way that ignores my instincts and love for the movie. So here it goes. I like that I can't figure out exactly what the message is. Yes, that's it. Every time I watch, I ask myself the same question.
What do they mean?
I love that everyone, including me, seems to see a different meaning in its brash, flamboyant, tense, and evocative depiction of humanity's future. Yet, unlike 2001: A Space Odyssey, that seems to evoke the same type of thinking, A Clockwork Orange is far more grounded in its human themes and understanding. Both are great movies addressing humanity's problems as it looks to the skies and it looks straight ahead of it. A Clockwork Orange, as it has been said countless times, asks the central question: can and should you force morality through coercion rather than choice? This question lends Kubrick's thesis on violence, rather than freedom, ultimately leaving the audience with an ambiguous ending to determine for themselves the best way for humanity to deal with its inherent evils going forward. Cynical, one-of-a-kind, stimulating, and brutally in your face, Clockwork Orange seamlessly walks the line between intelligent, thought-provoking storytelling and entertainment, and it is my favorite movie ever made. While Burgess only briefly touched on the meaning of the title A Clockwork Orange in the book, Kubrick chose to completely ignore it. Burgess admitted that he lifted the phrase from a pub, and the phrase, quote, as queer as a clockwork orange, end quote, is Cockney rhyming slang. But to everyone else, he said, the phrase is essentially meaningless. Kubrick decided wisely to leave the title unexplained. Unlike almost all movie titles, A Clockwork Orange remains one of the few that are truly undecipherable. In essence, like the film's meaning, it is open to interpretation and study. The writing in A Clockwork Orange is a masterclass in delivering an allegory and convincing the audience of an author's message. The film's anti-hero, Alex DeLarge, is initially portrayed in a horrifying light. His first act as protagonist involves the brutal beating of an old man and the rape of a wife in front of her husband. The camera work during the rape scene leaves most up to the imagination, only showing the woman's face, which, in many ways, better communicates the horror of the situation, as the face communicates emotion best through the eyes. In fact, the film makes a big point out of the eyes. For instance, one of Alex's eyes has mascara on it and is wide open and menacing, suggesting that he is almost like an animal on the prowl. So, what do we know about Alex in the film's opening minutes? He is brutal, selfish, and animalistic. Kubrick juxtaposes this animalism with proof that Alex indeed has some, albeit few, redeeming qualities. He has a pet snake, proving that despite his brutal violence, he is genuinely capable of caring for and loving another creature. On the other hand, the choice of a snake may be a suggestion that Alex only cares for those he respects, as the snake is a powerful, deadly animal, much like the way Alex would think of himself. In addition to this redeeming quality, Alex is not uncultured like an animal. He loves art, music, and high taste. Kubrick aptly balances this with Alex using the music as he thinks of ultraviolence. This is why I don't side with the critics on this film, who say Alex's misdeeds are glorified. They're not. They're often presented in a horrifying way, and his redeeming qualities are balanced as long as one looks beneath surface-level analysis. So, Kubrick presents an anti-hero that very much does dwell in the dark, but has potential for good inside him nonetheless. With this established, when the Ludovico technique is given, we see things from Kubrick's point of view. Alex should be given the opportunity to choose between the good inside him or the evil. The specter of technocracy is evident in the British government's approach to criminal reform. It is cold, bold, and completely new and reliant on science. There's no evidence in the film that the prisons are failing Britain in any way, but the government seems determined to uproot them in favor of a ruthless system of science-induced PTSD. As I said with the balance Kubrick presents throughout the screenplay, the government is not depicted in a wholly unsympathetic way. For instance, the Minister of the Interior is eloquent, well-dressed, and generally seems to have good intentions, as do the scientists who treat Alex. Kubrick postulates that there is something in human nature that beckons choice, and no one can control it no matter how hard they try. Kubrick does not state that people that do are necessarily tyrannical, but just fighting a losing battle. The film ends with imagery of Alex having consensual sex with a woman and sarcastically saying at the same time, quote, "I was cured all right," end quote, leaving the audience to decide whether the well-intended government truly did impel him towards good, or inadvertently freed a murderous rapist onto the streets of London and created him as a martyr in a futile attempt to revolutionize and modernize the criminal justice system. According to Kubrick, perhaps the old ways really are the best. To sum up the criticism of A Clockwork Orange, I'd like to read you a quote from the great Malcolm McDowell, but some context first. After the release of Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, Malcolm McDowell found himself at a big, glamorous Hollywood party, and who should find himself there other than the talented Gene Kelly, the star of Hollywood's favorite, Singing in the Rain. McDowell was asked if he'd like to meet him, to which he replied, quote, "Great, I'd love to meet him," end quote. But when they were introduced, Kelly turned his back to McDowell and walked away. McDowell said, quote, "Can you blame the poor man? I took this wonderful moment and completely fucked with it," end quote. And that's what Clockwork Orange really is when you strip everything away. It takes serious, often austere subject matter and fucks with it. So no, I can't really blame the people who watch this movie and want to turn their back to it. It really isn't for everyone, and it makes no attempt to please everyone either. But making enemies is a consequence for those and those things that are effective. As Prime Minister Churchill once said, quote, "You have enemies? Good, that means you stood up for something, sometime in your life," end quote. And my God, does this picture stand tall among the rest. I take my hat off to Stanley Kubrick for having the true grit and balls to fuck with people. Clockwork Orange masters so many diverse subjects in a 2-hour 15-minute runtime. Among these are the corrupt opportunism of the press and the politicians, criminal justice reform, technocracy burdening human ingenuity and talent, anti-heroes, and human nature. Every time you watch A Clockwork Orange, there's always a new theme to analyze, a new gem to be found in the screenplay. For instance, I found 3 new things I had never noticed. First, Alex DeLarge's arc is a unique perversion of a classic redemption arc, as he goes from bad to good to bad again. By the film's end, Kubrick gets you to be happy he's back to his old self, even if that old self is horrifying. This is classic audience manipulation to prove a point about human nature and choice, but very expert and clever manipulation. Second, Alex's parents constantly talk about the newspapers with no skepticism, and they only repeat what they've read, having no real thought process or opinions of their own. In that sense, Alex's parents represent the general population that go along with fancy-sounding reforms without critical thought. Third and most importantly, when Alex DeLarge lies to Mr. Deltoid that he'll stay out of trouble, he says, quote, "As clear as an azure sky of deepest summer," end quote. He says the exact phrase to the Minister of the Interior as he pledges to support the government, implying that Alex intends to lie and betray the government, capitalizing on his status as a martyr in the newspapers that society believes above all else, as his parents clearly demonstrated. This one's simple. My only complaint about this movie is the budget. I know it was Kubrick's goal to prove that he could make a great low-budget movie, and he certainly did. But a part of me always longs for the Clockwork Orange of a different scale and budget, like that of his other films. After all, I make no secret of my obsession with Barry Lyndon's cinematography.
You know something, you bitch? I think this just might be my masterpiece.